If you guys didn't see the live that I made last week, I discovered something that absolutely blew my mind. And it backed up exactly what I was feeling. And it's that the rich wholesalers are getting a hell of a lot richer, while the bottom of the barrel is struggling and getting left behind. And so to put into some context, I'm going to share my screen and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Right here, this is Google Trends. And this is the number of searches in a given time period. You can see the blue line is people that are searching real estate wholesaling, right? And the red line is people that are searching to sell my house for cash. The peak of wholesaling was 2021. That's when the most people were getting into it. That's when the market was the most saturated. But it was also the bottom of the barrel of when people were selling their house fast for cash, because honestly, houses were selling super easy back then. And so if you did get a deal, it was super easy to sell. Now, the craziest part is this is the first time in history since 2011. And it really, even in 2011, it wasn't completely adverse. It was like they were just about tied. But this is the first time since 2011, and really again in history, because people weren't looking up sell my house fast or wholesaling before that there are more people looking up how to sell their house for cash than there are wholesalers. And if you want to see something even crazier, just look up sell my house fast instead of just for cash, and you can see how many more people are searching how to sell their house fast. The crazy part about this, guys, is that this is why the rich are getting richer. They're capitalizing on the more motivation, while other people are wildly inconsistent. So in today's video, I'm going to be explaining why the top wholesalers in the country are scaling incredibly fast on autopilot, while the ones like the bottom of the barrel are struggling to get deals closed consistently, and how exactly to solve that. If you're new to this channel, all we do is we talk about how to get individual wholesalers to 100K a month, and from there, how to get their reps to 100K a month each, so that way you can scale your business to multiple 7 figures. And if you already subscribed, welcome back. I have got a banger for you guys today. And so we are going to be talking about the cure for inconsistency inside of your real estate wholesaling business. Now, to give you guys a perspective on where inconsistency comes from, I'm going to share this graph with you guys. And this was like a huge game changer for me. Now, this is what I call my scaling epiphany. So if you're not a mathematician, don't get overwhelmed by the graph. It's really simple. The green line is closing 1 out of 10 leads per deal, and the red line is closing 1 out of 40 leads per deal. And you can see their growth from there. Now, let me actually show you guys the interesting part about this. As wholesalers and flippers, we do not get all of our leads in the same day, right? We get them spread apart. So for this graph, we're going to do simple math that we get 10 leads per month. And a lot of you guys get a lot more than 10 leads per month if you're watching this. But what happens is at scale, this problem actually even amplifies. What you can see here is at 10 leads per deal, and you're reinvesting in this graph, you're reinvesting 35% right back into marketing. You can see how we grow. But the really interesting part is the bottom is months. And so what happens is if you're getting 10 leads per month and you close 1 out of 40, you're really closing 1 deal every 4 months. So you can see month 4, month 8, month 12, whereas the top graph, the 1 out of 10, is closing a deal every single month. And that's allowing them the consistency to actually scale it up. And so every time you miss a deal, every time, if you think about the deal that you've lost recently to an objection, I need to think about it, it's not enough money, that's not just costing you that one deal, it's actually creating the inconsistency inside of your business. And because you missed that deal, you didn't just miss out on a lower ROAS, you also might have missed out on another 30 days of revenue or another 30 days of that revenue, right? And what happens here is, if you guys have ever read this book, this is $100 million money models, which I highly recommend you read. You're probably wondering, you're like, okay, we don't have any upsells, we don't have any downsells, and we don't have any recurring. So it might feel like it's naturally inconsistent. But the core principle of this book is the exact same thing. It's being able to close a deal to fund your next 2 customers within 30 days. Like that's the core principle of the book. And so how do we do that? We do that by not missing the deals that we could have otherwise closed if we had the right objection handlers. The main thing is, if you are dealing with inconsistency in your business, the number one thing you need to look at is the conversion issue, the conversion problem. You have to look at the deals that you're missing inside of your CRM and your actual conversions right now, because there's always 2 problems to solve in your business. There's either a conversion problem, so you're inconsistent, you're missing the deals you know you should be closing, or you're closing all of them. You're closing like 1 out of 8, 1 out of 10, and then it just becomes a cash conversion and spending problem, right? Because if you're closing 1 out of 10 and you're ultra profitable, how do you just keep doing that at scale And then how do you hire people from there? And so now that we understand that concept, let's talk about, we've already fixed our conversion problem and we need to actually scale our business. What does that look like? So the first thing we need to understand is we need to understand what are the KPIs we need to hit for a consistent business. And so at the very least, you guys have probably seen me talk about this a ton of times, is I need to have how many leads, qualified leads, appointments, offers, contracts, and closed. So I need to understand, what does this look like on a quarterly basis? What does this look like on a monthly basis, weekly, and all the way down to daily? But we're going to focus on just weekly, right? So we need to look at our weekly KPIs. Now, what happens a lot of times with people that are inconsistent is they understand that they need to track their KPIs. They do the reverse engineering to figure out, okay, how many leads do I need to get? How many deals do I need to close at the end of this quarter to hit my revenue goal? But where it gets away from them is actually tracking this every single week. But most importantly, how do we make sure that we hit them? And that's what I'm going to be focusing on today, is hitting revenue every single week. And so I'll give you an example with my team. My team, I have 2 acquisitions managers and their KPIs are really simple. It's 2 contracts per week each. So on average, we're going to get 4 contracts per week. I shouldn't say on average because I don't want to see 2 one week and 6 the other week. I want 4 every single week. And that's what we're going to talk about, is how do we actually make sure that they're hitting that? And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I need to make sure that they are getting enough appointments. They're making enough offers, making enough talk time. And so every single day, we need to make sure we're holding a standard. Now for us, that's 120 dials, 120 minutes of talk time. I'll just put TT for talk time, and then 2 offers. Because what's going to happen here is, at the very least, this is going to turn into, that should be an equal sign. This is going to turn into 10 offers per week, which is going to turn into at least 2 contracts per week, bare minimum. Now, a lot of times we exceed this because we make 10 offers, we'll get 3 contracts, we'll get 4 contracts. But at the bare minimum, I need to make sure that they're hitting those metrics. What do I do to ensure that they're doing that? What I'm going to do is, as the week goes on, I am going to progressively get more intense with the help that I give them. If it's Monday, and this actually happened last Monday, where Monday they both got a contract, or this past Monday, they both got a contract on Monday. So I'm like, all right, cool, guys. You need to get at least 1 more each to be able to hit your contract goal this week. If Tuesday goes by, they don't have anything. It's like, okay, well, we're on track to hit our goal. But what about if it's Wednesday? What about if it's Thursday? What about if it's Friday? So what I'm doing is, every single day, I'm reminding them where we are in relationship to our goal. So on Wednesday, I'm like, all right, guys, let's not wait till Friday to get our contracts. What do we have here? And so on every single meeting, I'm looking at what their KPIs are. That's the first thing that I'm going over. I go over a little bit of gratitude, and then I go over most likely to close. Now, once I go over most likely to close, I have an order in how I help them. And so a lot of this depends on like how desperately we need contracts, or like where I feel like they are with that lead. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is, when they tell me they're most likely to close, we're going to look at what objection they're getting that's getting in the way, and we're going to role play that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a role play with them. And so, for example, last week, we were getting some uncertainty with like partner objections. So we would just drill it, and we would role play it, we'd role play it, and we'd role play it, right? And I would do that with them until I feel like they have it. I'm like, all right, cool, call them back, go get the contract lined up. That's the first thing that I'm going to do. And I'm always going to go to that first, because then they get to learn completely on their own. If for whatever reason we're behind on contracts and I need to put a little bit more gas on the fire, the next thing I'm going to do is what I call whisper mode. Now, if you guys don't know what whisper mode is, this is an absolute hack as a sales manager. And so what whisper mode is I can listen into their call, and I'm on the call, I can hear them, but then I can hit a button, it looks like a little ear, I can start talking to them. But the thing is, the seller can't hear me, only the rep can hear me. And so my team, they're trained enough to know terminology. So if I say, okay, go back to the needs, ask a 2 truths, ask a weighted question, they know what these things mean, so I don't have to say word for word exactly what they should say. It would be way too hard for them to internalize this. And so I'll give you a different perspective of what whisper mode looks like. A couple of years ago, I used to compete in jiu-jitsu competitions. And in a jiu-jitsu competition, you could say like, put your right leg over his right arm, but it gets really confusing, right? And you're trying to do it in the moment. But I remember I had he was a purple belt. I was a blue belt at this time, but I used to train with him every single day. So he knew what I would typically do. Like, he knew my strengths, he knew my weaknesses, and we spoke the same terminology. And so I remember one of my competitions, I was stuck standing up with this guy for a while, and I couldn't take him down. And I was trying a couple of different things, and I have something called a sacrifice throw that I would do. And so not everybody everybody knows what a sacrifice throw is. And obviously the other guy could hear you. So if he said like, oh, put your right leg above his left leg and then spin to your right, like the guy would see it coming, right? And also it would be a lot for me to try to internalize right there. So what my coach did, he was a purple belt at the time, but what he would do is he would just be like, hey, sacrifice. And I knew what that meant. So boom, grabbed the lapel, sacrifice through him, took him down, got on top of him, and I won that match, right? This was because we were able to speak the same language. And with whisper mode, if you can speak the right language with your sales rep, they'll be able to use this to their 100% benefit. And so like, for example, if they're trying to overcome the wrong objection on a call, like sellers like, oh, it's a price thing. And then I'm like, they mention a partner somewhere and I feel like it's actually a partner objection. I might just whisper in his ear. I might say, hey, that's a partner objection, not price. Focus on the partner first. Okay, goes through the partner objection. All right, now you got a fear objection. Overcome the fear objection. Be reassuring. They know how to be reassuring. They just need to focus on that one thing. And we have locked up tons and tons of contracts right at the finish line just because of this whisper mode. Now, the last thing that we'll do here is we'll do a manager pitch. And so what this sounds like is what they're trained to do is they're trained to go a little bit under their MAO, right? So if their MAO is 580, maybe they'll start at like 560. And if they feel like the deal is right there on the line, they can't overcome the objection, before they just go up on price, they'll say, look, I don't know what we can do, but let me call my manager. Let me see if I can talk him into it. And we just did one of these yesterday and we got it locked up. We were right there on the price and they'll call me with the seller and they'll say, hey, I've got Sally on the phone. She really can't do the 560. Can you go up any higher? I'll be like, no, we can't go up any higher. And then eventually they'll start selling me on the property together. They'll be like, oh, it's the neighborhood. And I might ask them for some terms, right? I might be able to get some terms in my favor. Well, will you give us another week on the inspection period? Will you clean up the backyard? Yeah, I can do that. All right. If you do that, if we give you that number, will you sign it today? Yes, I'll sign it today. And just having that level of authority right there, that has helped get a ton of deals across the line. And that would be the next thing that I would want to do because I am still giving them control of the close, right? The last thing you want is just to jump in, close all of your sales team's deals, and then they feel completely incompetent and then you're just training a bad habit, right? But if all of this doesn't work, let's say it's Friday, and I've had to do this before where it's like Friday, we've only locked up 1 or 2 contracts and we need another 2 for the week. Now I'm going to do my final thing, which is a TO call. And a TO call is a takeover call. And so what that looks like is I'm going to call a seller back that I feel like they might have been able to close. And I'm going to ask them how the conversation went. Were they polite? Were they on time? Did they take care of all of your needs? And what was the number one thing that stopped you from working with them? And from there, they're going to give me objections, which then I can overcome. And then we might get another 1 to 2 contracts. Now we get contracts like that all of the time. It's just not my go-to. I don't want to go straight to that because I'm building a habit with my rep that, hey, you guys can't close this. You need me to close it. And I don't want to do that all the time. That's like my worst case scenario. That's my last resort. Those are the 4 things that we do to make sure that we're hitting KPI from a tactical level. Now let's talk about actually motivating your team. I call this my line to marker, right? So if you guys watch football, when does the team push the hardest? Is it when it's a complete blowout or is it when, it's a tied game into the 4th quarter and they're 5 yards from the end zone? It's when it's a tied game, right? It's when they're 5 yards from the end zone. That's where you will see the highest level of a team. And it's the same way you're going to see the highest level of your team. But you have to put that line to marker in front of them. And you do this with every single constraint. So I'll give you guys an example. We had a week where, we know that our qualified lead to appointment ratio should be 65%. And we looked at all of our metrics and we looked back and it was 40% for the previous week. And so I immediately go, okay, we have another 25% of appointments from last week that should have been booked, but weren't for whatever reason. And so what I do is I go and I get on a call with my setter teams. I do an all hands meeting with all of my setters. And I say, guys, we have another 12 appointments that should have been booked last week that weren't. So here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to go to put a filter inside of the CRM of all the leads that came in last week, like within those last 7 days. And I want you to call them until you book another 12 appointments and let me know in the chat while you're doing that. So what ends up happening is the setters start saying, okay, I got one. I just got another one. I got another one. They start hyping each other up, right? And what that does is at the end of the day, boom, we got our 12 appointments. We're on track to hit our goal. And that last week's metric, we carry forward. So now we don't have that inconsistency in our business because it's something that I'm looking at weekly. That's the line to marker with an SDR. It might be the same thing with your lead. Hey, you talk to your agency or whoever's running your marketing. We were down 5 leads. You need to give me another 10 leads this week or another 5 leads this week. Let me know as those are coming in. Let me know if that happens. I need another 5, right? And making sure that you're holding them accountable. That way you're not waiting till the end of the month and you're like, holy shit, we were way off from our lead goal. What happened? It's like, no, you catch it soon. You catch it quickly. And you make sure you build those habits, right? This is the structure of being a good sales manager and creating consistency inside of your business. The last thing is going to be like, what about your sales reps, right? And so this is like right when you're at, 2 contracts, or let's say maybe you've only got one contract for the week, but your goal is 4. You're going to say, hey guys, we're just 3 away. You guys all send me your top 3 most likely to close and let's review them. And so like last Friday, I literally hopped on a call with my reps and we just started going through every single opportunity inside of the pipeline. And we're like, what's going on with this one? Why didn't it close? What could we do to get it right? And we're able to lock up another 2 contracts just from that, just from going through the pipeline and seeing what deals do we have, what conversations do we have that should have closed that didn't, and why didn't they close? And so this line to marker, this is more of like a motivation technique. So think about this as a way to motivate your team, right? If they are completely getting crushed by their goals, if you're setting like goals that are unrealistic for them to hit, eventually, what do football players do when it's a blowout game? They just kind of stop caring. They're like, let me just save my energy. I don't want to get hurt for the next game. The next game, I'm going to be way better to bet a better chance to win because it's going to be at the beginning. But if they see that line to marker, they're like, man, I'm 5 yards away from winning this thing, right? Maybe I'm 100 yards away from winning this thing, but it's 1 touchdown away. They are going to be pushing so much harder. And this is one of the main things that creates consistency inside of your business. Now, the last thing is a little bit more tactical, and that is being really, really good at objection handling, right? And so the reason this is so important, as you guys saw earlier, if you miss one deal, it doesn't just cost you that one deal. It might cost you the next 2 because you just missed out on your ad spend. The way that you end up winning these deals is by being really good at objection handling. You should have one person on your team that's just a savage objection handler that can close any of the deals that are close, right? And if you don't, you need to become that person. Otherwise, you are never going to be able to scale your business. You're not going to be able to take advantage of the market that we have right now, and you're not going to be able to create consistency. And so when we're looking at objection handling, the main objections that you need to get really good at is price. You need to get really good at price objections. You need to get really good at logistics. That should be a logistics objection. And the last one you need to get really good at is fear. Price, this might be multiple quotes. This might be, I feel like I can get more money for the property. I might just go ahead and list it, right? Logistics, this might be like time frame. This might be like the attorney objection, right? They need to go talk to their attorney. It might be like a lot of the deals that I get involved with are like some problem that they're trying to solve. Like, man, I have to go buy another house, or I need to go rent, or, I have to get this other person involved and I don't have any contact with them, right? Like things like that. Those are logistics objections. You need to get really good at that. And then the last one is fear. And one of the things that the top closers understand that other people don't is that most objections actually come down to fear. Like once you get really good at handling the smoke screens, like I need to think about it. You get really good at handling the smoke screens, like I need to go talk to, a partner, or I need to run this by somebody else. Once you get through those smoke screens, all of these other objections typically end up coming down to fear. And so I have tons of other videos where I do talk about objection handling, but these are the 3 ones that you have to master. If you can master these, you are going to be winning the deals that right now you are losing. And that in turn is going to create a ton of consistency inside of your business. And so if you guys are struggling right now with any of these things, you guys want to check out the link inside of the description. We have a group where we train you on sales 5 days a week. We go in depth on the sales management that I was just talking about. So like, how do we actually drive our sales team? How do we hire good reps? And how do we create that consistency in our business? What does the reinvestment look like to be able to scale profitably and safely? So check out the link and make sure you guys stay tuned, like and subscribe for the next video. Bye, everybody.